We go to chapter 44, factors of production. We're talking about factors of production. This is chapter 44. When we talk about chapter of factors of production, we're talking about resources that help in the production of goods and services. Resources that help in the production of goods and services are the factors of production. So we call them economic resources anyway. So we move on. Let's check. 4 factors of production. Production involves converting resources into goods and services. These goods and services are provided to satisfy the needs and wants of people. So the resources used by businesses such as these are called the 4 factors of production. So we call them factors of production because they are the resources that helps in the production of goods and services, like I said earlier. So they are the inputs. So these inputs are what is used in process that goes in processing to give us output, which is goods and services. So we start. The first factor of production is land. Businesses will need a plot of land to locate their premises. So land is fixed in nature. It is important for whatever we do, whatever we produce as a business. There's nothing like production without the factors of production. Teaching involves all the factors of production.
True.
Whatever goods or services, whatever it is that involves production, we have to use factors of production: the land, the labor, the capital, and the enterprise. So for land, whatever we talk about land means anything on land, like the mountain, the rubber plantation, the premises. They are all land, natural resources. I think land is clear.
Yeah.
Businesses will not be able to operate without having a land. Yes or no? Then we have labor. When we talk about labor, we're talking about the workforce in the economy, people that work for the company. Without workers, we can't even have organizations. Who are those that are going to carry out the operations? So workers are the labor. You understand what labor here is? Then we have the skilled workers. We have the skilled workers who are those that are educated. We have the semi-skilled that goes for maybe technological or technical, and we have unskilled who don't need education or training to even carry out their jobs. Sure. I think you get. But irrespective of whichever one it is, they are all workers, and they are important in the factors of production of labor, which is labor. Clear. Then we have capital. For capital, we have. They say capital is often said to be an artificial resource because it is made by labor. There are 2 types of capital. We call capital artificial. What? We call capital artificial resources because it is made by people. The laptop is capital resource. It's capital. The phone is capital. There are resources. It is produced with the use of natural resources, but it is produced by people. So that's why we call capital what an artificial resources. Is it clear? So is it clear, please?
Okay.
So we have the working capital or circulating capital, which refers to stocks of raw materials and components that will be used up in production. So we have the working capital or circulating capital. These are what we use in the course of operation. That is working capital or circulating capital.
Sure.
We use them in the course of operation. Then we have the fixed capital, which involves the equipment, the machinery. They can last longer. So these are the things that carry out the operation. These are the things we use in producing other goods. So we call them the fixed capital.
What's the difference between them?
Circulating are used day to day. Fixed are those equipment we use to carry out those functions. Not like the laptop. Laptop is fixed. Equipment, machines, premises, shops, offices, furniture, they are all fixed.
Yeah.
They are not the same as working capital. The working capital example is stocks. The cash we use in operation, they are working capital.
Sure.
Is it clear? Do you know the difference between them now?
Yeah. Sure.
Then the last one is enterprise. For enterprise, we're talking about the office of an entrepreneur, the company, the business itself. So that means that is where we have an entrepreneur. So who is an entrepreneur? The person setting up the business. The person who has taken that decision to set up a business. That's an entrepreneur. I think it's clear. So without them, production would never take place. Let's talk about the role of entrepreneurs here. One, they come up with a business idea. So they are the one that comes up with this idea, and this idea they want to make a business out of it. So the business idea that they've come up with, they want to start selling from it. So that is what they come up with business idea is. Do you get the point? 2, they are business owners. They usually provide some money to help set up a business and are responsible for its direction. So they are the owners. They direct the business. They bring out the money to put into the business.
Sure.
They are risk takers. Why are they risk takers? They are risk takers because they are putting their own money into the business. The money that might not come back. the business might goes bad. The business might go bad, might goes bad. You know. So what happens? Everything is gone. They are responsible for organizing resources. So they are the controllers of all other factors of production. So they are in charge of land, they are in charge of labor, they are in charge of capital. So that's why I call them the organizers of all other factors of production. Clear? That's factors of production.
Yes.
Any question about factors of production here?
No.
So we go to specialization and division of labor. Are you there? Specialization and division of labor. Are you
Yes.
there? Okay. One feature of modern business is specialization. This is the production of a limited range of goods by an individual, business, region, or nation. So we call it specialization because that individual, that country, that business, is carrying out a specific task. It's doing what it knows how to do best.
A country, huh?
A country, a nation, an individual, a business, specific. You have your own speciality. This is what you know how to produce. You are producing what you know how to produce best. That is specialization. Doing what you know how to do best.
Doing how to what?
Libya has petroleum.
Okay, sure.
So Libya produces petroleum. Does Libya produce anything again that you know? You know
No.
of? No. So that means Libya specializes in producing petroleum. That's the
Yeah.
point. Is it clear now? Is it clear or not?
Like a country or a nation or something.
A country,
makes
an
something-
individual, even an individual. My specialty is business. I teach business. So I could choose to continue to teach business. That's my specialty.
That's specialization.
Yes. Is it clear now? So, what brings about specialization? Specialization doesn't really start. It starts with division of labor. So that's why they said division of labor would lead to specialization. And what is division of labor? Division of labor is the breaking down of production process into different stages, and each stage can be performed by different people. That's the division of labor. The breaking down of production process into different stages, and each stage can be performed by different people. So the business teacher teaches business, the accounting teacher teaches accounting, the math teacher teaches math, he continues to teach math, she continues to teach business, and that becomes a specialty. That becomes his specialty. So we have divided the job. So each individual starts carrying out that function, and they become special. It becomes part of their expertise. So they become expert in that job. Then that's their specialization. Is it clear?
Clear.
So they said division of labor will increase productivity for the following reasons. So how will division of labor increase productivity? One, workers concentrate on the tasks that they do best. So with division of labor, it means I'm doing what I know how to do best. So that will increase productivity, yes or no? I don't have to ask you what I'm doing because I know what I'm doing. Worker skills improve as they regularly repeat the same task. So I've been a business teacher for a decade now. So every year that passes by, I get better.
Yeah.
So that's the point they're making there. Time is saved because workers are not switching from one task to another. So I'm not going to waste your time. As soon as I come here, we start.
Yeah.
I don't have to read before I teach you because this is my specialty. Clear? The organization of production is easier. So now we are almost done with the books. This time we set, we are able to meet up with the deadline.
Sure.
Because it's specialization. Although specialization is likely to improve productivity, it does have disadvantages too. So what are the problems about specialization? So for example, work can become tedious and boring because of repetition. Also, I'm going to explain. Also, when one stage of production depends on another, there may be delays if one stage breaks down or is delayed. So the problems about specialization or division of labor here is with specialization, you could get boredom, doing the same thing every now and then. You could get tired. Like you continue to do the same thing. You continue to do the same task for years. It could get bored. You could get, you might lose interest in it.
I don't get it.
When you continue to perform the same task year in, year out, you might get tired of the task.
Just doing the same thing.
Yes, you might get tired. It might become boring to you. It doesn't, interest you anymore. It could happen because you are human. Though I don't see teaching like that anyway.
Yeah.
I don't see teaching like that. Teaching continues to get interesting every year.
Sure.
Do you get the point? But with the human nature makes us to believe that people could get tired repeating the same task. I think the point is clear now.
Yeah, sure.
What else there? And with division of labor, it means you have to do your part, I do my part. As soon as I'm done with my part, she does her part. So if your part is not completed, I can't do my part. So that means there's interdependence. And with interdependence, there might be delay. Because if there's a breakdown from your own side, it affects the whole side. It affects other sides.
Really?
Yes, because it's interdependent. I rely on you to finish up your stuff so I can start mine. But you are unable to finish up. You've broke down. Then your breakdown will affect my going forward.
There's nothing.
Because each task, the operation is interdependent. Each individual will carry out his or her own task.
Yeah.
But if one task is not finished or is not done, or there's a breakdown in one task, it affects the whole operations. That's another problem about division of labor.
Really, it may affect other.
Don't you still get what division of labor is? The math teacher is doing his job, the English
Yeah.
teacher is doing his job,
Yeah.
the science teacher is doing her job, and the rest.
Yeah.
So if one of them doesn't do their job, it affects the other, because the student will not get the complete lessons well. Do you get it?
Yeah.
That's on one side. If I have to rely on you because you have your own specialty, I have my own specialty. So you have to carry on your own tasks fully. Then I'll continue from where you stop. But I won't be able to continue from where you stop because you are unable to finish up your own task. So that is what they meant by there may be delay. So I have to wait for your own task to be completed before I start my own task. Because my own task is my specialty, your own task is your specialty. I don't know how to do your own task.
True.
So if you are not available, nobody does your task. Do you get the point now?
Yeah, okay.
So that's it. Any question about division of labor and specialization?
Okay, no.
Good. So go to labor intensive and capital intensive. Are you there? Labor intensive and capital intensive production. Businesses have to manage resources effectively. They have to choose a suitable combination of materials, tools, equipment, machinery, and labor for production. Some businesses use labor intensive production, which means that they use relatively more labor than capital. Labor intensive production is common in far eastern countries. So these are stories which we know already. Labor intensive. It means we use more workers than capital. But this will depend on. They said the best resource mix between labor and capital depends on the following factors. So what are the factors that determine if we have to use labor intensive or capital intensive? That's the point they are making. One, the type of product. So if we are producing, mass-produced fast-moving consumer goods are likely to be produced in huge plants using large amounts of machinery. However, in many Western economies, most production is focused on providing services that are often very labor-intensive. So now the type of product. If you are producing goods in the mass market, you need machinery. That is the point.
Yeah.
Clear? And if you are producing services, especially in the first world countries, the developed countries, they use more labor because it's labor intensive because it's services. Do you get the point here? Manufacturing might use more capital, might be capital intensive. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Manufacturing might be capital intensive, and tertiary sector or services might be what? Labor intensive. Is it clear? The other factor is
Yeah.
the other factor. Excuse me, please. The other factor is the prices of the two factors. Which one is more expensive? Is it capital or labor? Do you get the point?
Like, yeah.
You want to make decision about labor or capital, labor production method or capital production method. The second factor you could use after the type of product is the cost, the price of labor, the price of capital. Businesses will choose the ones that are relatively cheap.
Yeah.
In as much as it carries out their production function. Is it clear? Is it clear, please?
No.
We're talking about factors that we put into consideration if we have to decide to choose labor or capital.
Yeah, sure.
We talked about the type of product. Manufactured products need capital intensive more because they're producing in the mass market. Services businesses will use labor intensive because they have to deal with human contacts.
Sure.
The second part is the relative prices of the two factors. The labor intensive and the capital intensive. Which one is cheaper? Businesses will choose the one that is relatively cheaper for their production. That is the point. Is it clear now?
Yeah, actually.
Great. So go to capital intensive production, the advantages and disadvantages of capital intensive, advantages and disadvantages of labor intensive. Are you there?
Yeah.
For capital intensive, generally more cost effective if large quantities are produced. For capital intensive, it is cost effective if we are producing at large quantities.
Cost effective.
Yeah, but it means cost will be reduced because you are producing on a large scale.
Yeah.
You get it?
True.
2, machinery is often more precise and consistent because it's standardized. So there won't be mistakes from machines.
True.
Machinery can operate 24 hours. People get tired. You get the point there? So there's no, machine might not stop. Machinery is easier to manage than people. Yeah, people are dynamic. Machine, they don't have to argue with you.
Yeah.
That is the point there. Is it clear?
Sure.
Then what are the problems about machinery? 1, huge setup cost. It is expensive the initial setup is high. Long delays may occur when there is a breakdown. If machine breaks down, then it becomes a problem. It might take time before you find out how to work it out. It may be inflexible. A lot of machinery is highly specialized. I told you earlier that machines are are specialized. So they might not be able to use. They might not be used for other production. May leave the workforce facing redundancy and affect morale.
Well, what's more?
Morale is your ability, you feeling happy, you having that motivation to work, because now you have machines replacing some of your employees, some of your colleagues. So because machine will replace some of your colleagues, if not you, some of your colleagues will be redundant, and that could demotivate you. These are the advantages and disadvantages of capital intensive production. Now go to labor intensive production.
Sure.
It is more flexible than capital because you can retrain workers.
Give them more tasks.
You can retrain them. You can tell them, you can teach them how to carry out certain functions.
Sure.
But machines are built in a specific way, which you might not be able to change. It's cheaper when it comes to small scale production, not large scale production, small scale, small businesses. They don't have the financial capability to even buy equipment. They don't even need to buy machinery. So they use workers because workers become cheaper there. Clear?
Sure.
Cheaper for large scale of production when labor is cheap. If labor is cheap, then you can use for large scale production. Like that's why some people, that's why most businesses take their factory to developing countries or less developed countries like Africa because labor is cheap over there. Clear? Is it clear, please?
Yeah, clear.
People are creative and can solve problems and make improvements. Machines are stationed. People are creative. They find a better way of getting things done.
Yeah, sure.
Then the problems about people are more difficult to manage. They have feelings. They have reactions. Machines do not have these things. People can be unreliable. They may be sick or leave suddenly. They might leave your work. They might not come today. They might be absent. Machine is stationed. People need breaks and holidays. They can't do it 24 hours.
Yeah.
People sometimes need to be motivated to improve performance. You might even need to reward them for them to increase their productivity of performance. Is it clear? Any question about that?
Yeah, no.
So go to the changing relationship between enterprise, capital, and labor. Are you there?
Sure.
Over time, the type of resources used by a business and the way they are used is likely to change. For example, rapid advances in technology have resulted in more capital-intensive production worldwide. So let me just explain the changing relationship between enterprise, capital, and labor here. What they are simply saying is that with advancement in technology, most businesses are changing. They start finding an efficient way to do things. And this is what technology will bring about. Do you understand? So it's about efficiency. They want it to be done, they want to carry out functions, they want to carry out things, to be convincing. And to do these things, we need technology.
Sure.
So do you understand? That is probably what the point is about. So whatever it is, people start thinking about specialization. People start thinking about services.
Well, how?
These are the things that brings a lot of revenue. We don't talk about production anymore. We talk about rendering services. Rendering. Offering services like banking, tourism, teaching, education, help. music,
Mm.
entertainment.
Sure.
These are where money comes from. Do you understand? So mostly businesses, they start thinking about a better way of doing things. And this involves what? Technology.
Mm.
That's technological advancement. So most businesses will spend more on research and development to find out what is the latest that could make things to become better than how it used to be.
Sure.
Any question
Like
about that?
basically services.
Yeah, services.
Yeah. Basically, if it's services more helpful than the technology, they will, you know, they will focus on labor. If it,
These days,
yeah.
businesses start becoming capital intensive.
Mm.
The use of technology becomes rampant.
Rampant.
Yeah, that's everybody wants to, because that's the only way to be efficient.
Mm.
That's the point here.
Mm.
Even when you have the skills, sometimes you need equipment
Yeah, equipment.
to help you out. So that is the point we're making
Mm.
here. Is it clear now?
So basically, it has to be intertwined, labor intensive and the capital intensive.
Labor will perform efficiently with the help of technology.
Mm. Okay, sure.
Now we're done with that.
That's the idea of it. Right?
Yeah. So go to the question, please. The MCQ for chapter 44. What?
Mm. That's the idea of capital and labor.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one.
I'm with you.
Okay. Number one. Which of these products is most likely to be produced using labor-intensive production methods? Okay, A. Biscuits. B. Motorbikes. C. Smartphones. D. Wedding gowns.
Which of these products is most likely to be produced using labor intensive?
Production method.
Yeah.
C.
Smartphones.
Yeah.
Labor intensive.
Yeah.
Why did you choose smartphones?
Is it something wrong?
No, why did you choose smartphones?
Like, is motorbikes more helpful than smartphones?
Wedding gowns, smartphones, motorbikes. Which one of these products is most likely to be produced using labor intensive?
Smartphones. Like, yeah, smartphones, right?
Smartphones.
Yeah. Well, motorbikes will not even. The thing is, motorbikes will not take all the products to like supermarkets or something. Like, motorbike is so small, like it needs trucks and stuff. Delivery vans.
What about biscuits?
It's food.
Biscuits is in the mass market.
Yeah.
So do you think
It's food. It's not an instrument. It's not something to. It's not something to help labor. Sure, to feed them, yeah, but to make motivation. But it's not helpful to the business, technically.
using more labor,
Yeah.
biscuit is mass, is in the mass market, yes or no?
Yeah.
It's
food.
whatever it is, biscuit is in the mass market. You think you need more workers to pack, to clip, to do this. You need equipment.
Yeah.
So it is not labor intensive. Motorbike is not, it's capital intensive. Smartphones are capital intensive. Smartphone is not, it's a phone. It has to be packed.
Oh, yeah.
Wedding gowns.
What is wedding gowns?
Clothes, like clothes. Wedding gowns, the gowns they wear at the wedding.
Ah.
That's labor intensive. People will sew it.
Yeah. I never heard of wedding gowns.
You should have asked. So the answer is wedding gowns anyway.
Okay, sure.
Question 2.
Okay, number 2. Which of these is an example of land as a
Factor
factor
of
of
production.
production? A. Water. B. Tractor. C. Machinist. D. Robotic welder. Which of these is an example of land as a factor of production?
Land as a factor of production.
A.
Yeah. A, water, yeah. Anything on land is land, okay?
B, C, D are just robots. Robots are not land.
Tractor is capital. Machinist,
Tractors are
capital.
Tractors are not land.
Capital.
Yeah.
Robotic welder, capital. So the answer is A. Question 3, please.
Water, obviously, land.
Question 3.
Question 3. Which of these is an advantage of labor-intensive production? A. More flexibility. B. Lower unit costs. C. More consists in production. D. People are easier to manage than machines. A. More flexibility.
You said, which of these is an advantage of labor-intensive production? More flexibility, yes.
Yes.
Great. Question 4.
Okay, which of the following is a role of an
Entrepreneur.
Okay, we have A. Producing final accounts to measure performance. B. Organizing. C. Specializing. D. Training.
Training.
B.
Organizing, great. So
Yeah,
that ends
organizing
chapter.
the business.
That ends chapter 44.
Yeah. Specializing is employers